morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning. Welcome to Florida Drupal Camp. My name is Hector Iribarne, and today I'll be talking about Drupal 8, peek under the hood. It's kind of a high-level view of what's going on right now with Drupal 8. Obviously, it's not released yet. It's scheduled to be released right now by the end of the year. We already have the feature freeze and code freeze is coming up in July. So after July, it'll be easier to determine when the final release date will be. So once we have code freeze, then it'll depend on how many critical patches are left to decide when the Drupal 8 is going to come out. So the information I'm going to give you today is going to be related to where we are kind of right now, what's available right now. So it is it is in a transitional state, so just keep that in mind. The main topics I'm going to discover today are what's new in Drupal 8, some of the changes from D7 to D8, and then I'll finish off with a demonstration of how to install Drupal 8 locally on your computer on Mac or Windows. I'll be using the Acquia Dev Desktop. There's other ways to install Drupal 8 with Git, but I decided to pick the common way so that anybody, whether you're new to Drupal or you're experienced with Drupal, it's a good way to get Drupal 8 on your computer so you can kind of play with it, see what it's doing. So the question a lot of people ask is, so why Drupal 8 now? And I'm going to talk about what my decisions are for getting into Drupal 8 now, but it is a good time to start looking at what's coming so that even if you're building a Drupal 7 site, having knowledge of what's coming in 8 can help you maybe make some decisions on what modules to use or how to build your current site. So that's what most people are saying. It's like, well, Drupal, I got all my modules in 7, I'm doing Drupal 7, this is what I do. So that's a good approach, but even though Drupal 8 is still not done, I think it's really, I've been looking at it, I really think it's really great. There's a lot of new improvements that are really worth looking into. So I want to give you my perspective of where I'm coming from so you kind of know where my opinion is coming from as far as why I'm getting involved with Drupal 8. So let me start off just telling you how I started with Drupal. I got my feet wet with Drupal 5. The way I found out about Drupal, I was looking at a lot of my background's in telecommunications and application development. I wanted to learn the web, so I was looking at different frameworks, from Java frameworks like Spring to other frameworks in other languages. And I heard this guy named Leo Laporte. He used to do a show called Screensavers, and he said he was going to build one of his sites in Drupal, and that's the first time I heard of it. So that's when I started to look at it. So I actually went ahead and I just kind of built a Drupal 5 site with it, just on my own domain, just to kind of start playing with it, because at the time I had a day job doing application development, and I was working on Drupal part-time, which is how many people start. So then I got into Drupal 6 a little bit, and in Drupal 6, a lot of people were doing distributions. So it was a good way to learn what Drupal can do out of the box. Managing News is one of the companies that at the time had a lot of distributions that were very popular. And this one here is called Managing News. So this is one that I got into. I actually built a few sites, and I got my feet wet even more. So then I still had a day job. Drupal was part-time for me, so when Drupal 7 came out, I actually looked around to see which was the best way to build Drupal 7 sites, and I saw that really the Drupal Commerce distribution from Commerce Guys is the way that they built that framework is using the best of Drupal 7 entities and rules. So these are good best practices. So even if you're doing 7, I think you should definitely look at this distribution because it's really well designed. So then I've decided now to just focus on Drupal 8 because I can. I don't have to build sites right now. So I'm going to take the time to just start with 8. And I've started a few months ago, so my knowledge is kind of general, and I'll be telling you about that. So let's get into kind of what's new in 8. So first thing, if you listen to Dries, either at the past DrupalCon Denver or his keynote from Sydney, the whole approach for Drupal 8, one of the most important things is the responsive web, or mobile first. So the concept of mobile first is to, when you're designing your site, instead of thinking what it's going to look on the desktop first, you want to look at what it's going to look like on mobile first, which means that you may have less information. So it kind of makes you focus on the most important things that you want to have in your website. So I'm going to show you later, but here's a screenshot of just a basic Drupal 8 install. And you can see I've shrunk it down so that it's actually, you can see that all the Drupal themes in 8 are responsive. So that's one great thing about 8. One more thing I want to say about mobile first is, up till now, from Drupal, say 4.6 all the way to 7, the design has always been for desktop first. So, and now Drupal 8 is really focusing on every aspect, even the way that the page loads is designed for mobile first. And I'll be talking more about that later, but that's kind of, if you get one thing out of this presentation, is that that of all the things that are new in Drupal 8, the fact that it's responsive out of the box, the fact that it's HTML5, which is my next slide. Here's the same Drupal 8 install, and you can see I did a view source, and you can see that the doc type is HTML, which means it's HTML5. So that's another thing that helps it look, which is new for 8. It's HTML5, and 7 is still the old doc type. Another great thing is that now we have views in core. And this is really a big thing because, as everybody knows, when you install 7, the first module most people to tell you to install is views, because it lets you pull all of the content out of your database and display it in different ways on your site. So now that's in core. So that's really great, I think. Another great thing is that WYSIWYG editor is now in core as well. So this is actually a screenshot of when you go to create an article in Drupal 8. As you can see, this is the screen, and as you can see, you have a WYSIWYG editor. You can actually have file uploads, and instead of having everything, all the information further down, as you can see to the right, they have some of the important links to the right, so you can kind of see everything at once. So that's all new, and this is all like just with a basic Drupal 8 install. No additional modules. This is fresh 8 install, which I'm going to demo later. Another great thing is part of the configuration management initiative is UUIDs in core, and this is right now mostly for entities. But what this is important is a lot of people that like to have a development server and then a staging and production for deploying and building their sites. There's been sometimes there's problems with knowing where the data came from or where it started, or so sometimes you have to be really careful about your procedures from going from one to the other. So in Drupal 8, entities have this universal identifier, unique identifier, which lets you track where things come from, so it's easier to keep things in separate silos and getting things confused on the back end. So this is a really big improvement as well, which is configuration. It was part of configuration management, and this is configuration management is something that's going to make your life a little easier as far as doing configurations in Drupal. What they're doing is they're moving a lot of things that used to be in tables in the database. They're moving them to files, which are flat files, so it's easier to manage versioning, and so it's one of the initiatives that's really important. The other big change is the way that Drupal creates the page for you to see is now, and all of the basic HTTP requests and responses to build your the Drupal page. A lot of the infrastructure is now going to be run on top of Symphony, which is an open source PHP framework. It's object-oriented, and it's also MVC. And Twig is part of Symphony, which is for themers. So the thing about Drupal 8, it's object-oriented now because it's running on Symphony, and Symphony is also object-oriented, which means that the way you build modules will be changing, and I'll be talking a little bit about that later. Another important thing is Symphony has dedicated that, or stated that they will have Symphony 2.3 LTS, which means long-term support. It's kind of like Linux long-term support, where they say they will dedicate to support this for 3 years. So Symphony 2.3 is supposed to come out in a few months, and that's going to link up with Drupal 8, so that through the whole Drupal 8 lifecycle, it's always going to be Symphony 2.3. And if there's any patches or things that need to be done, it's always, so Symphony 2.3 will be with Drupal 8. So when Drupal 9 comes out, maybe there's another long-term support version like Symphony 2.7. So that's something that developers are interested in. So it's really good to know that the version of Symphony is going to stay the same throughout the Drupal 8 lifecycle. And Twig in Drupal 8 is a new templating engine for doing themes. And 8's still going to support PHP templates. So if you have themes in 7, you'll be able to use them in 8, probably with a few modifications. But if you're thinking of what Drupal 9 will be, you may lose PHP template, or there's talk of that. So the way I look at 8 sometimes, Drupal 7 is very procedural, and Drupal 9 is going to be almost completely object-oriented. They may not even have hooks. They may use a Symphony event dispatcher instead of hooks. So Drupal 8 is kind of in the middle. It's going to let people upgrade their site from 7. But if you're starting today and you want to build a site with 8 when it's released, and you start to write your modules in an object-oriented manner, and you start using Twig, then it'll be a lot easier to upgrade to 9 when 9 comes out than if you take a 7 site, convert it to 8, and now later you want to go on to 9. So this is something I'm kind of giving you the big picture so you can kind of see forward where Drupal is headed, so then you can make decisions today about what you need to do. And that's really kind of the goal of this presentation, is to kind of paint you a picture of some of the major areas of 8, where they are now, so that you can then build your sites today looking forward. Here's a description of all the initiatives. These were established by Dries. These are the main areas of Drupal 8, and each of the initiative has an initiative lead that's taking care of it. So as you can see, like views and core was an initiative, configuration management, and you can see the Drupal cons that are blue means that's the progress. The ones that are in gray means there's still work to be done. So these are all, and I didn't mention all these, but layouts is for the way that all the block system is being used to display for theming. Obviously mobile is the mobile initiative. There's also a big push for multilingual, to make it easier for people in different languages to be able to install Drupal more quickly. And when I show you to install Drupal 8, you'll actually see there's a drop down for language right in the installation, this is new. So that's really exciting for people that want to install Drupal in languages other than English. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about some of the differences between Drupal 7 and 8. Right before I talked about a lot of the new things that are going to be in 8. So now let's kind of compare and contrast 7 and 8. So one of the first changes you're going to notice as the directory structure is changing. So the directory structure has been the same since 4.6 all the way to 7. On the left you'll see the current directory structure that you use. In 8 they're changing it mostly because they've added support for the vendor folder now contains all the Symphony and I think maybe some of the Twig files if I'm not mistaken. But now you have a core folder that has all of the the old thing, never hack core. So anything in the core folder is now what you don't want to touch. But now there's individual modules, sites, themes, folders right directly under your main directory, as opposed to being under sites, all modules, sites, all themes. It's now under the modules, the main directory. So that's one of the big changes you'll have to kind of get used to. It's more intuitive if you're new to Drupal to have it built this way. Have a folder for all the things that are in the core, and then additional folders beneath that to have your custom modules, custom themes, or contributed modules, contributed themes. So I'm going to go through some slides here to kind of give you a perspective of some of the different, as you can see, this is a slide that shows you how many modules are in core, and it shows you from Drupal 5 all the way to Drupal 8. And as you can see, the new modules were in gray. 8 has a lot of new modules. So that kind of just gives you a perspective of the changes from release to release as far as the number of modules that are in the distribution. Theming. The Garland theme is finally gone from Drupal 8. They finally, as you can see, Garland theme, which a lot of people don't like, it's now gone from 8. So that's no one. I mean, so it's, a lot of people are happy about that. And so there's now just 3 themes that come with Drupal 8. 7, which is used for admin. Bartik, which is the theme that you will see if you're not logged in, or the main theme. And Stark is another theme, which is for theme. It's kind of a very vanilla theme that you can, if you want to start from scratch and you're used to using a lot of CSS and things, you can probably use Stark. Let's talk a little bit about hooks. So hooks are the way that people or developers add functionality to Drupal. So if you ever look at a contributed module, if you look at the source code, you'll see it's just full of hooks, which means that Drupal has its way of doing things, and then by implementing this hook in your code, you can override the functionality and customize it. So a lot of contributed themes, everything uses hooks for modules, and even in core they use hooks. So just to give you some statistics, there's slightly less hooks in 8 than 7, and there's actually 83 hooks that are now being deprecated, which means they used to be in 7 but are not in 8. There's 56 new hooks in 8, and there's a few hooks that are being renamed, so you have to watch out for those. And I created this, I shared this Google Doc. It's a spreadsheet that has all the hooks listed. So what I did was, as you can see below, I used all the hooks in 7. There's a page for all the hooks in 7. There's a page for all hooks in 8. And I did a comparison to find out, to get these numbers. But the important thing here to take away is that you still get to use hooks in 8. You may have to change the way you use them, but there is talk that in 9 they may reduce the number of hooks even more to using there's an event dispatcher in Symphony that's already you can use in 8 that you're not forced to use, but that's going to be more relied upon more in 9 than 8. But this is kind of just to give you an idea of high-level changes as far as module building in 8. Okay, so now I'm gonna show you a demo of installing Drupal 8 on laptop. So the first thing that you would do, if you don't already have the Acquia Dev desktop, you want to go to the Acquia downloads page, and you want to download the Acquia Dev desktop. Now, DMG, that's for Mac, and then the executables for Windows. So this is like an installer that will install Drupal 7 first. So there is no way to, using the Acquia Dev desktop, to install 8 directly right now because it's a dev version, so they're not supporting it. But I'm going to show you a way to actually import a Drupal 8 site or any distribution or any site into Acquia Dev desktop There's other ways of doing it too. A lot of people are going to use Git to pull the Drupal 8. I have a link at the end for you to do that. But I wanted to keep this presentation for beginners, so you can
just say that we're currently having a beta of the new dev desktop that supports Drupal 8.
Oh, it does?
So it's going to be released really quick, like soon. Oh, cool.
Oh, okay.
So,
Well,
and multiple PHP versions and all that stuff.
Oh, okay, great. So yeah, I figured it would come eventually, but right now
it's almost there.
It's almost there. Okay. Well, if you want to install it today, I'm going to show you how to install Drupal 8 with AccuDev Desktop. It's really easy. So first you install AccuDev Desktop. I'm showing you a folder. I call a local folder called websites, so then I can have my like Drupal 7, Drupal 8, or you can have different websites running on the same Accu. So I just showing you what the nomenclature I use to install Drupal. And the default port for that desktop is 8082. You can change that if you're already using that for something else like MAMP or WAMP, but I left the default. And then you just type in your normal, your admin password. This will be all your passwords and usernames for your 7 site, which that desktop installs first, which is right now it's Drupal 7.22. Okay, so let me go show you what I'm talking about now. So I'm going to start AccuDev Desktop. I've already have it installed, so I didn't want to take time downloading and showing you how to install it because I want to show you one more time on 8. Oh, I have to click on this. Small detail. Start the program. Okay, so this is AccuDev Desktop. After you install it, it has your Apache server and your SQL database. You can actually click here, and it'll actually I have it pointing to something else. But if I go to localhost, when you first install it, it's going to have localhost here, and that's all it's going to have. So you just click on Go to My Site, and this is actually what it installs, which is Drupal 7.722. So this is Drupal 7. So now I'm going to show you how to pull in Drupal 8. Well, I think one thing I have to, if you have an older version of that desktop, you have to make sure for Drupal 8 that you have at least for PHP version 5.3.10. It's now required as of March. It's a minimum version for Drupal 8 is PHP 5.3.10. Here I have 5.3.18, so I'm good. If you install the latest desktop, this will be correct, but some people will have an older version, and you have to make sure that you have at least 5.3.10 PHP to run Drupal 8. So let's go back. So then, under localhost, there's this link. I have some others installed here, but you're just going to have localhost and more. So you click on more, and then you're going to get a list of, this is localhost, this is your Drupal 7 right here. So now you're going to go to import, and so you don't freak out about saving these settings. I took some screenshots of the most important screens, so they'll be on the slides that you can look up later. So as you can see, so let's go download Drupal 8. So before we can do this step, really, to import, you have to have Drupal 8, right? So the easiest way to, you just go to Google, just go Drupal download. You come here to the download page for all Drupal stuff. And you can see here's the download for 7.2.2, but we want to go to other releases. And we want 8, so right now it's showing 7, so we want to click on 8, hit apply, and then we will download this file, or zip. So it's downloading. I already have one downloaded, so let's see, go to my finder. Go to downloads. Here's I downloaded this. This is my latest. I'm going to use the one I used the other day. So basically, I unzip the file. It has a folder. Okay, so this is the folder. So this is now the Drupal 8 folder. So now I want to rename this folder to whatever path I want to have as my subdomain. I'm going to just say, I'm going to call this Drupal 8. But you can call it whatever you want. So I'm going to call the folder Drupal 8. I already have this. It's already here. So let's just delete this. I'm going to show you. Do it again. I'm going to change the name. Drupal 8. And then I'm going to copy this folder to my websites directory, which is where all of my websites are going to be. So now I go to my website. Here. So I go to websites. As you can see, it installed this Drupal 722. That's the AccuDev desktop. So now I'm going to copy my Drupal 8 folder. It's copying. You'll see it here. So now that I have, should I put it in here? There it is. Okay, so now under websites, I have my Drupal 8 folder that I just, and if you look at it, it's just all the files. This is basically the folder I just downloaded. So now I can go to my dev desktop and then import. So this is so I have the screen over here. So here, I'm showing you the screenshots to, under localhost you'll have this more link. Then you click on import, and then you type in the path to your folder. You have to change this to create a new database, and then the name is Drupal 8. So let's do that now. I'm going to show you. So I browse. To my websites folder, Drupal 8. There I have it. I wanted to create the database. This is going to be Drupal 8. And then this is subdomain. I'm going to call it the same just for simplicity. And I hit import. So now I'm going to install Drupal 8. It's going to take me through the steps. And here's what I said before. Now you can actually pick the language, Drupal 8, that you want to install it in. Before you would have to use installation profiles 7 before to install different languages, but now you can pick. So let's do English. So we click save. We want to use standard because that installs all the core modules. Minimal, I think, installs hardly anything, so we want to stick, for us, standard. Database name is fine. The password local. Just click save and continue. So now it's installing all the modules. It's pulling in. You can see it's going through and listing all the modules it's installing. It's actually creating. It's actually running the Drupal 8 installation profile actually. So. installing it live. I wanted to make sure that so you could see the installation process so that you understand how it works, and it's pretty fast actually, relatively. Okay. Almost. There we go. Now it's redirecting to the next step, which is setting up all the username, the passwords, and everything. Just for simplicity, since it's local, I'm just going to use this as my, and put the email address, localhost.com. Username is going to be the same. Passwords, the same. Oops. Oops. Click on confirm. And set the country to US, just for where we are. Turn off all this automatic update stuff because it's local, so I don't really care. And now save and continue. This is the last step before you get to go to your site. So now it's going to set all your passwords, and that's it. I just click on visit new site. You should be able to go right to the site. As you can see, the domain name is Drupal8.localhost, and there's our Drupal 8 site. This is so let's just go through some of the basic things. I have about 15 minutes. I want to leave at least like 10 minutes or 5 to 10 minutes for questions. So what I'll do is I'll kind of show you some of the things in Drupal 8 so you kind of get to see what's going on. So the first thing that you'll notice is this menu. Before you would have an admin menu across the top, but now you can select to either show it here at the top, and it's showing the help on the next line because it's on screen compressed. But you can use this if you prefer to see the admin menu to the left. You can see it to the left, and then you have all these drop downs to then see the individual parts. The other big change is the modules directory is not called extend. It's more intuitive, and as you can see, there's some different modules in here. Here's your WYSIWYG in core. What else? Exciting entities. Entity reference is now in core. Those people like to write modules. This is, I think, for mobile. Layout's still being worked on, so I'm not going to turn it on right now. It's more for theming. It's going to be, once it's done, it's going to be very powerful. What else? Picture module is relatively new. Just show you that yet. And there's views, content stuff. So that's your module page. So there's also these shortcuts that you can actually add onto. If you like to use certain things, you can add different shortcuts for you to get to access to quickly. We'll just take the defaults for now. The other big thing, let's take this away, is this pencil. As you can see, when I click on it, you can see all these little edit everywhere. So you can just, if you turn it on, you can go and you can just edit this view directly. And it takes you right to the view page for that view. So it's getting to the concept of doing everything from where you start. So if you go look at this block, you can either edit the menu, you can actually go and configure the block. It takes you right to where you need to be. And as you can see, the layouts are, instead of everything being vertical, they've added some things on the sidebar to make it a little easier to use. So just let's add a content so we can see how to do content. So let's add an article. It's on the basic. As you can see from the screenshot earlier, you have a WYSIWYG here now. You can upload a file. Oh, there. So let's create some content. I'm gonna call it. This is from So I'm going to upload a file. Upload a picture directly. This is all in core. Keep in mind, everything here is in Drupal 8 core. There's no additional modules added. Before, to do this in 7, you would have to add a lot of modules, but just keep this in mind. It's all in core. So I'm going to add a picture, and then I'm going to say. Something simple. So we're going to publish it. As you can have options here you can save it as unpublished, but by default it's going to publish it. So there is the content. Let's go to the home page. I think it's on the, yep. So it's promoted to the front page. As you can see, when you go to edit, you can either edit the view. See, you can just click edit view right from the front page. You can actually see the view it's using. It's a default view for the front page. You can change this, but this is just showing you, I'm just trying to show you some of the, or you can edit the node directly, or you could do a quick edit. This is new in 8. So with a quick edit, it's like you can do some inline editing. So you can see when I hover over these different aspects, I can edit the image. I can edit the body right from here. I can edit the tags right from here. So if you click on image, see it lets me say, I can add some text here. I can remove the picture. Let's add some text. Save it. And I mean, this is really powerful. I mean, this is going to be improving. They're going to be adding more things. But this just shows you how far you can, this is what you can get right now. So imagine what you're going to have when it's finally released. So this is Drupal 8. Let me go back to the slides. So we finished installing. So these are some of the references I used for the presentation. You can go look at. Here's some additional links. How to install it from Git for those of you that don't want to use Aquadev Desktop. There's also some of the best Drupal 8 videos are from the Sydney DrupalCon. They explain a lot of different things, from talking about more details on Symphony, which I kind of just brushed upon, upgrading your modules from 7 to 8. There's a great video from WebChick on that, talking about the Twig theme. So if you're into theming, you should definitely watch this one. And then there's this is a video from a Q&A on Drupal 8 Core that talks about Drupal 8. And then just recently, like 9 days ago, they had all the initiative leads have a session talking about where Drupal 8 is right now, what they're doing. It's really great. You should definitely watch it if you're interested in 8. That's a really great video. So don't forget to fill out the questionnaire about the session. And now it's time for questions. Have any questions? Huh? Turn the lights back on. So I have a book to give away. Whoever asks the best question that doesn't stump me gets it. So does anybody have any
How
questions?
easy is it to port your little module that you made for your client to Drupal 8? Is there any upgrade things that you are aware of, or
Well,
for developers?
The best thing, WebChick goes through upgrading a Drupal 7 module pants from 7 to 8, and she goes through every step. From what I understand, you kind of try to you put in the new information of 8, and then you plug it into 8, and then you see what starts to not work, and then that's how you can kind of see, go here, fix this, fix that, and depending on how much, if you're using hooks that are deprecated, obviously you're going to have to redo those, but you can be lucky and it could all work very quickly. So that is the two approaches. Yeah. So there
the
are
whole Symphony thing. I mean, like, is there anything you as a module developer has to do with Symphony thing?
You don't have to. You don't have to.
You could,
because let's say that all the hooks that you're using in your Drupal 7 module are still in 8. You could probably upgrade, and there may be a few things you may have to tweak, but it shouldn't be too much.
Okay.
But then, let's say you're writing a new module in 8, then you may want to consider using Symphony because it's going to be the whole way of loading classes, and Drupal 8 supports PSR 0 for PHP, which is a new way, a standard way of doing PHP development in general that you probably want to learn. But say you just want to convert your module quickly, you should do it that way. And definitely watch WebChick's video. She has I think a blog post on her site that explains it. But there's a module called Pants in Drupal 7, and the reason why they use that module is it's a broad module that touches on a lot of parts of Drupal. So you can actually see her. Oh, I got to change this here. It's really I would start with that video first. So then, yes.
You mentioned briefly that Drupal 8 is going to be focused a lot on mobile devices. Do you know how comprehensive that support is going to be, like as far as dimensions and orientation, like rotation, that kind of stuff for mobile devices, touch, multi-touch?
I think the layout piece may have a lot to do
Right,
with
that's still in the works, so it's kind of early. That's like the initiative that has the most to do, the whole layouts. Because the one thing to keep in mind is up to 7 pages were being built. You would think of your site as page 1, home page 1, page 2, and then your blocks inside. In 8, it's almost everything's a block now. So you have to the way you think of your site is slightly different, but it makes it easier for mobile because if everything's a block, then it's easier to
reorganize.
But it's one of the initiatives that's still being worked on, that the whole layout. So that I would definitely follow. Go to Drupal.org or go to the initiatives, the layout, and then that'll probably give you more information about like where it's headed and give you more details.
Just one thing that I've seen a lot of fragmentation on is like support for like photo galleries. Like you're going to show a bunch of photos and you want to be able to swipe through them on a tablet, whereas on a PC you might want to have arrows and that kind of thing. I've seen a lot of fragmentation on just support for layout and functionality.
Well, I think you'll have to see whatever modules are in 7 for layouts. You're going to have to see what they do in 8, whether they're going to upgrade them or if there's a new, completely new layout manager that's going to come out. But that probably won't be decided closer to the freeze, or launch of 8, which right now it's towards the end of this year. So. But yeah, I would definitely keep an eye on the layout initiative.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Also probably depends on the model, it's an initiative.
Okay, thank you very much.
So, thank you.